welcome to a new series on this channel that we are calling Deep Dive. So we're starting off with my move Lockjaw, and I've had a tutorial for this move before, however it was only a few minutes long and just over the shoulder, and that's typically how our tutorials are. But with Deep Dive, what we're going to be doing is taking you much deeper and further into these moves. So we're going to be showing you multiple angles, slow-mo, tips for practicing, tips for performing, and general advice that we've learned over the multiple hours of practicing all of these moves. So the way that these videos will be structured is that we'll have our regular over-the-shoulder verbal walkthrough. So that's sort of the standard way that we typically do our tutorials. We'll also have a dual angle slow motion performance. So this will be filmed at 180 frames per second, and it'll be a performance of the move from front and back angles. Oftentimes, if you're just performing a move slower, it can be difficult to do the move exactly the way that you do when you perform it at full speed. So the purpose of this slow motion dual angle is it shows you the intricacies of the move in slow motion while we're still able to perform the move at full speed, and therefore not sacrificing any of the details by trying to manually slow the performance down ourselves. And then at the end, I'll give you specific tips and tricks for the move. So this can be anything from how to practice the move, what to keep in mind about packet size or finger placement, how to perform the move, and general tips and tricks showing you different angles that maybe you didn't catch in the verbal walkthrough. So starting off here with Lockjaw, this is one of my favorite original cuts. It's a 3-packet interlocking move, and I really enjoy how it feels to perform this move once you get it down. So it does help if you have a little bit bigger hands, but that doesn't mean it's not possible with smaller hands. Even if you do have smaller hands, still give this move a shot. I guarantee you can get it down with just a little bit of practice. So without further ado, grab a deck of cards and let's jump into the first deep dive of my move, Lockjaw. All right, so getting into the verbal walkthrough here. The grip here is a raised dealer's grip, like so. The main contact being the index on both fingers, and you'll use those to break off into an E grip. Your thumbs both go around to the back, and you're going to strip out the middle packet, back, up, and on top of the top packet. Rotate it slightly sideways so the side of the card can then push up against your index finger, and the face of that packet presses against the back of the top packet. You'll use this packet to slide and push that packet forward so that the bottom now connects with your index, and rotate your hands 180 degrees and drop that packet into your right hand here. So that'll completely release from your index, and you will use your thumb to then push that packet under the other packet, and that'll connect to your index of your other hand at the top. And this is where you get the interlocking motion. So notice where my middle finger is on my right hand. It goes all the way into the crook of my thumb, and that allows for this pinch to happen between your index and thumb of my left hand here. So that pinch happens, and you completely let go of that packet except for your thumb. The motions now reverse, and you use your index and thumb to push back through and under that packet. And my right thumb here takes the grip from my right index, and I now have these packets connected by my thumbs, and I can rotate my hands back around, therefore rotating the packet back under the main deck, and it can square up like so. So let's run through that one more time. I'll point out a couple different things. So we'll break off again from that raised dealer's grip, strip out the middle packet, and that'll go on top, and you'll use the face of that packet to push the top packet forward, connects with your index, rotate your hands around, drop the packet into the palm of your hand, and push it forward with your thumb to connect to your index. Your middle goes all the way into the crook of your fingers between your index and thumb, and that allows your index and thumb to then pinch those two packets close. You then reverse the motions using your index and thumb to push the packet back through and under, and the thumb replaces the index, allowing you to rotate your hands back and slide that packet under the deck, like so. All right, now we can jump into some tips and tricks to think about while you're practicing and performing this move. So I've got 4 tips for you here. Jumping into the first one is to break off even packets. So the first 3 packets that you use and that you break off for this move, it helps to keep them pretty even. You want to have a even distribution between these packets because you don't want one packet standing out as either too big or too small. Just the way that this move works, it can throw off sort of the balance of different portions of the move if one of them is too big or too small. So by keeping the packets roughly the same size, that should prevent any troubles later on in the move. Getting into the second tip here, this is going to be a tip for keeping a clean performance, and it's regarding the pinch. So the full push through motion, and then when you pinch these 2 packets here together. So when my index and thumb come together, take note of how the packets line up while you pinch them together. So notice how I have them completely lined up. I sort of keep an eye on the corners and sort of match the corners up to each other when I pinch those together. And that's going to make a big difference when you're performing this move, whether it looks clean or whether it looks sloppy. So this is for more so when you get the move down a bit better and you're performing the move more consistently, but just keep those packets pinched together cleanly and make sure those sides all line up. All right, and my third tip here is probably the most important for getting this move down. This again happens at sort of the push through, pinching, interlocking moment in this cut. But this is now regarding my other hand. So take note of the packet that's sliding in towards my thumb and look at the middle finger and where it is placed. It is all the way in the crook of the thumb and index for my other hand. It is completely placed against that wedge there. And that's really important for giving enough space and clearance for your other fingers to perform the pinching motion. So just make sure that you're pushing that middle finger all the way through to the wedge of your index and thumb, and that should help with creating enough space for the pinch motion. And my final tip here will be a bit more performance based. So this is more so when you have the move down pretty well at this point. And after you perform the pinching motion, extend all of the fingers of your hand, in my case, my left hand here, so that they're not particularly resting or connected to any other packets, and keep them extended as you're performing the rotation of the final packet under the rest of the deck. And what that does is it both allows space for that to happen, and it also opens up the move to the audience. So it allows them to see what that final motion is happening without your fingers sort of cleaning things up or getting in the way. And it overall creates a smoother look. You're using less fingers to create the motions of the packet, which is just kind of a general cardistry tip. And to sort of help out with not using fingers, you can sort of rest or pinch that packet slightly between the wedge of your index and thumb. So sliding that in there and not wrapping your fingers around until you do the final closing motion. From there, you can square up the deck and finish off the cut.